One of the first issues that I ran into on the bike that wound up being extremely challenging to troubleshoot was the fact that while I rode up to the rock store one weekend with my friends, and as we were leaving, this is when I first got the bike, I hit the run switch and turned on the ignition and hit the start switch, and nothing happened. Like nothing. Here, let me show you. So the way I used to do it is this switch right here, I would always turn that off when I was done. So that's the run switch or the kill switch, that's the start switch, and that's the ignition. So I would turn the run switch to run, where it is now. I would switch the ignition to ignition, and I would hit the start button, push it down. The problem was nothing at all, dead, just like not trying to start, not anything. And then I turned everything off and I tried it again and it started. Okay. So I started thinking, all right, what's going on? It's 2007, probably the parts are starting to wear out and I hope it's not the wiring harness. So I started troubleshooting, and I'll show you kind of what I did here. So the first thing I did was I came in here and I replaced these relays. So this is the ignition relay, and on a Harley stock they're gray, but I got it off of Amazon, and or actually Dennis Kirk, I think. And then this is the system relay, and these are all your fuses. So the first thing I did was I took all the fuses out and I wire brushed them. I even bought some new fuses. They're 15 amp fuses. And I wire brushed them all down so they were clean and there was no corrosion. And I put a little bit of dielectric grease on there. And the first relay that I changed out was the ignition relay, because that made sense to me. Changed everything out. The bike started and I thought, cool, good to go. Next day, it didn't start. It would start, it wouldn't start. And I'm like, oh my God. And I did some research. I couldn't hear the fuel pump. I couldn't hear the fuel pump come on when I went to start the bike. I'll show you real quick what that sounds like. So when you start it, you'll hear or when you turn the ignition on, you'll hear the fuel pump engage. Right? So I don't know if you were able to hear that or not. So I did some research. Oh, there goes my alarm. I did some research, and it turns out that the system relay is what sends power to the starter motor and the fuel pump. So I thought, okay, system relay. Bought a system relay, put that in. Same place, I think, Dennis Kirk. And it worked for a while. Well, the other day, I came out here and went to start the bike, and same problem. Hit the run switch, turned the ignition on, hit the start, nothing. But this time, I was paying attention, and I didn't hear the fuel pump engage. So I thought, all right. Turned everything off, turned it back on. I heard it engage. It kind of cut off and started. It was really weird. So I thought, well, that sounds and feels like a short somewhere. So I'll show you what I did. I turned everything on, the ignition, the run switch. And then I tried to hit the start switch and I got nothing. Well, I thought, what if I just come here and push this in a little more, just press it in a little more. And sure enough, when I did that, I heard the fuel pump engage. And I turned everything off, turned it back on, no fuel pump. I pressed that run button in just a little farther and I heard everything engage. So I thought, okay, the wires got crushed in the handlebars, and that's probably what's going on. So I actually purchased, I think it's from Harley-Davidson, it's called a handlebar kit, and I put those on. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, the kit from Harley is the switch housings, all the buttons, and a 60-inch wiring harness. So it's all ready to go. You just have to plug it into the Molex connectors and take the tank off and all that fun stuff. But anyway, back to the story. So I took the switch housing off on the right side here. And I noticed I bought these handlebars pre-wired off of eBay. And the switches are really cheap, really cheap. And I'll tell you how I figured that out. They came with silver caps, right? And I thought, well, no, I want the black caps on there because it looks weird on my bike. So I took all the caps off. They're pretty easy to do. And I was putting the caps back on, and I'll show you. There's two caps that have a dual purpose. This one, see, it says off and run. And then this one, light, low, and high beams. Okay. So when you pop the caps off of the switches, you'll see on those two switches particularly where the caps, there's little ears on the caps and they fit over like little pieces on the switches. So on those two switches, the caps have like a little gear cut out, and there's like little gears on those switches so that when you flip the switch to the on or off position, the teeth will move whatever internal mechanism turns it on or off, or high or low or whatever. Well, when I put the black caps on the headlights, the plastic was so cheap that all the teeth got ground off of the actual switch itself. And I was being really delicate because I didn't want to break anything. So I had the original handlebars on here. They're the Night Train 6-inch risers. And I pulled the wiring out because I couldn't use the wiring that was on there. It wasn't long enough. I guess I could have extended it, but I just didn't. So anyway, I pulled down the wiring harness and I cut off the high beam, the low and high beam switch, and I soldered it. I cut the one off of there and I soldered it on. I could tell immediately the quality of the Harley switch was superior. It was just way better. It wasn't cheap at all. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, maybe I can get down the wiring harness again and I'll cut off everything on the right side. I'll do the blinker, I'll do the start, and I'll do the run switches. And I did. And that seemed to have fixed it. One thing that I did before I changed anything was I looked at the Harley wiring kit, and Harley-Davidson very specifically has a way inside the switch housings to route the wires. And you probably can't see it, but I'll just show you. Probably not. Yeah. Under the bars, you can't see it, but under here, there's like a cutout in the bar because these are internal wires that go in the handlebars. And, Harley, everything's in a wiring harness, like a plastic harness, all the way up to where the switches connect. And they have it zip tied down and have it run a very specific way. So I didn't have a wiring harness, the plastic, but I just kind of grouped the wires together. I may have zip tied them, I don't know, but I just routed them through the switch housing and through the handlebars. Because there was one time where I actually did crush the wires. I didn't break them, I just kind of flattened them out. And that could have been the problem as well. They could have been broken on the inside, which would have been, causing intermittent connectivity. But anyway, that was the problem, and then I went ahead and put the Harley wiring kit on the bars. I pulled all those other wires out, and we'll talk about that on the next one. But it wasn't very expensive to buy a couple relays and clean, the fuses and stuff like that. Like I said, I already had a wiring harness from the 6-inch handlebars that were on here, the 6-inch riser handlebars, and clipping those switches off was no big deal. But anyway, we'll talk about the handlebars maybe next, unless there's something else. Thanks, man.